Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. I think we start with, it's going to be English, not Arabic, I don't know. Most of you, there are some people who speak English, and first of all, Dr. Ahmed Yamani is supposed to be here, the rector of the university, but he has some important meeting outside the university, and he just sent his regard to all of you, and hopefully he will join us this time. And I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome everybody, all those participants from other universities and from our university. And really, I believe this is the second time this event is organized here in Sultan University, and it's our pleasure to have it here, and we wish we have it all the next years. And such events and such activities is really very important for students, and to introduce students from different universities to each other, and they learn from each other. And the purpose of these activities, all of you are winners. There is no loser in these activities. To be honest, all those who are participating are winners, and we are learning, not only you. And this is an opportunity for students to learn something. You know, debate is maybe something new to us, but if you have it in an organized way, and how to debate, and how to you convey your points that you want to defend, and this is the right way to do it. And it's not easy. I'm sure some of you have seen the debate in the US between presidents. And the debate, they don't come immediately just to the debate. They prepare hours and hours and hours until as you can see them in the debates. They are preparing, and they come and they do very well in the debates. And the same thing we wish all of our students to learn, because once you practice something, sometimes once and twice, and you will learn how to tackle it. You will learn how to do it. And that's the ultimate purpose. And there are many things, these skills, we need it between our students. For example, presentation. We are lacking the presentation skills. A lot of our students may be graduating, and they don't know how to present or to stand in front of the other student, and do their presentation. And these, sometimes I can say, they are more important than the knowledge you get in the university. Attendance in the university, this is the purpose, to learn these soft skills like presentation, debate, and work in a group, and all of these skills are very important. And having such events and organizing such events, I'd like to thank everybody participating, the participants, and those who are in charge of organizing these events from our university and from other universities. And this is very important for our students. I'd like to thank all of them for organizing this event. And the university, Sultan University, is available we have the space, a place, and everything. If you need anything to organize it once or twice a year, we are ready to have such event, and we are ready to support such events. And other events similar to this between the universities. And thank you very much for your coming. And hopefully we'll see you next year.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed Al-Jabreen. At this point, I'd like to ask our 3 judges to introduce themselves to the audience, and we have a 4th judge as well.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Dr. Ahmed Al-Sultan. I'm the Dean of the Prep program at Dar University. I'm delighted to be with you today as a chief judge of this competition, wishing everybody really to have enjoyable and productive debate for today. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Abdurrahman Afia, and I'm the Vice Dean of the Preparatory Program at Dr. Maloom University. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here today. I wish all the participants all the best of luck, and looking forward to some wonderful debates. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm head of the English department at Darul University. I'm glad to be here, and I would like to encourage all the students to do their level best and to to give their productive performance here. Thank you.
All right, judges, are you prepared to start? I would like to ask the Imam University team, in the order that you're going to speak, please stand up and say your full name. First speaker, second speaker, third speaker.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sultan Ajmi. I'll be speaker one on behalf of Al Imam Muhammad bin Saud Islamic University.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Muhammad Abdurrahman Al-Taybi, and I'm going to be the second speaker for Imam Muhammad University.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, everyone. My name is Fahad Al-Bajiti, and I will be the third speaker from Imam University.
And now we have Riyadh ELM.
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Faisal Talik and I'll be speaker number one on behalf of Riyadh ELM University.
Assalamu alaikum, good morning. My name is Mahmoud Abid and I'll be speaker two representing Riyadh ELM University.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Daniel Gannas, and I'll be speaker number 3 for Riyadh ELM University. Thank you.
And one more point I would like to make sure everyone understands. When it is your turn to speak, all you do is stand up where you are. You do not need to come to the lectern or come to the front of the stage. Are there any more questions? Is everyone, yes?
Can you make the point about the lights?
Okay, let's show the lights again. The green light will come on at 3 minutes.
All right.
The yellow light will come on at 4 minutes. The red light will come on at 5 minutes.
There's no
At 5 minutes, there's no minimum. At 5 minutes and 30 seconds, all 3 lights go on, and that's how you know you're getting minus points.
Okay.
Very good question. Are there any other questions? Judges, are you prepared?
Yes.
Teams, are you prepared?
Yes.
Gentlemen, you are allowed to, after the team speaks, after the other team speaks, you're allowed up to 1 minute to gather your thoughts before you start speaking. You don't need to start speaking immediately after, but don't take more than a minute because that will slow down the flow of the debate. Thank you very much. And with that, Pro Team, please make your opening argument.
In the name of Allah, the most gracious and most merciful, Allah's peace and blessings be upon you all. Us, or other Team A, or support from Al Imam Islamic University.
Stand up.
Pardon me, everyone. We, Al Imam Muhammad bin Saud Islamic University team, support.
Is it possible to give him
It is
a
very
microphone? This is not practical for the team to have share this.
Test 1, 2, 3. Hello, everyone. Again, we at the Imam Muhammad bin Saud Islamic University support the argument that artificial intelligence will increase the rate of unemployment in Saudi Arabia. And Speaker 2, Muhammad Al-Tabi, and Speaker 3, Fahad Al-Anizi, will give you our arguments that support this idea. And now, to move to our dear friend and colleague, Muhammad Al-Tabi.
Restart the clock.
Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh. Sorry for being late, first of all. Second, our argument is for pro that artificial intelligence will increase the non-workers or what we call unemployment in Saudi Arabia for several reasons, and we have evidence and we have actually examples from the real world. For example, BMW, the famous company, has exceeded or not fired, but let away their employers because of artificial intelligence. And well, when artificial intelligence did their work as humans, they are more than human, in fact, because all the humanoid side effects are not in artificial intelligence. And that being said, artificial intelligence will be, in the future, will be more and more, throughout our lives. And we have nowadays examples of artificial intelligence, which is our cell phones. And it affected our lives, such as Siri. It affected our communication. In the past, we used to ask for directions. Now, we just ask Siri, where is that place? And that's the first point. The second point is, according to one of the famous physicists, Stephen Hawking, said when artificial intelligence is at its full, it will spell human in all their lives, for works and for other things. But our discussion will be in a working process. That was the second one. The third one is artificial intelligence is above human, and we can't compete to artificial intelligence because it can it can do creative thinking, and that started at 2006, if I'm not mistaken, 2006 or 2013. They started to develop creative thinking. The fourth point is artificial intelligence is more than just computers. Is more than just computers. It can exceed. It can exceed than humans. It can exceed in their works and in their creativity. And that being said, thank you for listening.
Assalamu alaikum once again. You just heard the functional side of our argument. Now let's hear a little bit of the emotional side. Edison created electricity, as you all know, but he didn't make it from the first time. He failed so many times until he created the electricity that we all using now on a daily basis. Right now, so many people are using electricity. The closest example I can relate to right now is a little girl who is now in her house sleeping on an air condition, waiting for her father, who's a lawyer. Now this lawyer, being a lawyer is something fulfilling for him, but artificial intelligence may eliminate that. He is not going to have a job in the next few years because of artificial intelligence, because he will eliminate law and medicine. So where does that make a human stand? Where, artificial intelligence is, the name explains itself. No error, straightforward. But those failures, they are the one that makes our success. So what I'm saying that, yeah, it will eliminate jobs that we need. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone. Again, our team has presented the arguments that support our point of view that AI will increase unemployment rates in Saudi Arabia, with Speaker 2 laying the grounds for the practical side, and our third speaker laying the grounds for the argument that humans are affected by emotions, which in turn affect their productivity. And now, that's all for our part. Now for Team 2.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Faisal Falik from Riyadh University, and our our team will make the case that AI will not decrease jobs in the Saudi market. Now, the debate about the future of work has been a convoluted topic, gaining steam with every milestone we hit in the advancement of technology. The gaining skepticism amongst economists and laborers has been evident for quite some time. In fact, if you compare archives of the 1920s to the present-day literature, you would find that the fear pertaining to the spread of the automation of the workflow was just as ubiquitous back then as it is today. There was a spike of automation anxiety in the 1920s and early 1930s when machines started taking over jobs on farms and factories. However, it is easy to see these jobs being replaced and manipulated. It is hard to visualize what happens next. It is hard to visualize how these machines and new technologies may replace the jobs that effectively ended. New technology can replace lost jobs in a number of ways. Jobs for people who design and maintain the technology. In addition, the path is paved for the rise of unprecedented industries that create new opportunities. Labor-saving technology can help companies cut expenses, which means they can expand and save more money, expand into new areas and sectors, creating new job opportunities. It also allows them to lower their product prices to compete, which means more consumers can buy their products, further perpetuating the ballooning of any particular industry. And with this ballooning and growth and advancement of the industry, and this, with technologies such as AI, and the subsequent growth and expansion of an industry, means more and more people can find under the reach and the umbrella of that particular industry, which is important to combat the exponential growth of the population. Now, I want to bring your attention to a study conducted by Oxford University in 2013 that shows that 47% of jobs will be automated in the next decade or two. Now, I want to point out that the researchers made a point to underscore the fact that the study focused on the capabilities of the technology and not the overall extent and pace it will have on the automation of jobs, nor on the overall effect it will have on unemployment. So it just shows you that we are still on the dark regarding research on this matter. Now, as to not be perceived as naive, I am not saying that these jobs will appear immediately. There might be a gap. There might be a change in wages and work hours, geographic relocations. However, I still believe there will continue to be jobs. A study conducted by Deutsche Bank over a span of more than a century of the unemployment rate in the US from 1901 to 2016 shows that excluding the Great Depression, there was a steady unemployment rate of 5 to 10%. Now, some of you may wish to refute my arguments by pointing out that the past automation of industries is unparalleled to artificial intelligence. However, I seek to remind you that the only measuring stick you and I have to frivolously attempt to predict the overall effect that AI will have in the future is the past effects that the automation of industries has already had. Now, as I do not believe in the narrative of hijacking a global takeover of robots, often depicted in dystopian fiction novels and movies, further feeding into the fear of the lay public, I do contend that there will be change, and we should brace for that change and prepare for it accordingly. There might be changes in our job descriptions, perhaps such as AI Business Development Manager, or AI-assisted healthcare technician. There might be a change in our lifestyle or in our interactions. However, with that being said, I do not imagine us just ignoring the consequences that rapid automation of jobs might have on society, in which we just leave people distraught, miserable, and jobless. I believe that governments and high-level management officials in major industries and companies should be held responsible to concoct a system for the regulation of ethical guidance of AI, so that there is a smooth and seamless transition into the future. Some of the points the government may seek to implement, such as encourage discussion on the ethics of AI and ensure that all parties are involved. Government efforts should be collaborative with existing efforts to research and discuss AI. Past initiatives, such as the Alan Turing Institute, for example. The develop standards and certification systems for ethically aligned AI and autonomous systems. And with that, I conclude and pass to my colleague, Dr. Mahmoud Abid. Thank you.
Has all three of your teams spoken? Oh, all three? Okay, the idea was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But okay, go ahead.
They all went together, so we're just going to do the same thing.
All right.
Okay. Dear opposition, dear judges, and esteemed guests, good morning, and thank you for having us for the second time this year. We all understand that evolution is a natural part of life, and with it comes change. Resist that change as you may, destiny still arrives. So if we turn the pages back and we look at our history, we came from humble beginnings when we first discovered fire and its various uses, like keeping us warm in the dead of night, or when we used rocks and formed different tools that helped us into agriculture, for example, the sickle. Now, these little instruments, as insignificant as they may seem on their own, had a major impact on us as a species and as a race. We moved forward and never looked back. So, what changes do we face in our day-to-day lives in this century? Well, we have something called AI. What is AI, you may ask? AI is basically an abbreviation of the word artificial intelligence, which the Oxford Dictionary defines as the theory and development of computer systems able to perform tasks normally, requiring human intelligence, such as visual perception, speech recognition, decision-making, and translation between languages. AI has many applications. For example, in the realm of agriculture, in the realm of science, technology, automobiles, as well as health. And as students of Riyadh ELM University, me and my colleagues are dental students, and I will use dentistry as an example of how AI can go hand in hand with a clinician in practice. There is something called Dentistry Ar, which is currently available for mass production. People can use it. Any clinician can use it. And what it does, it helps as a diagnostic tool that aids the dentist with his radiographs. Me and my colleagues, we look at radiographs all the time. And sometimes we can come across certain teeth and miss some critical diagnosis, which costs the patient time, money, and all of these are very valuable assets. So with this technology, it can help enhance our pathosis diagnosis, as well as cut chairside time with the patient, and limit spending. And this is currently clinically approved by the FDA. So, this will allow us to have a comprehensive treatment with the patient, giving them the best results that they deserve. I would like to end by quoting the famed Irish playwright, George Bernard Shaw, who said, "Progress is impossible without change." Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Judges, PSU, and everyone in this auditorium, thank you for having us today in the second annual men's debate competition, and hope it continues for many years to come. Our opposition mentioned that we use cell phones for directions now as Siri instead of getting people. I'm pretty sure that there is no official job for giving directions, so it only helped us for the better. Also, y'all said that AI is above humans. How is AI above humans if AI was created by humans? Okay, if we have jobs being missed, people being laid off, what we can do is, as my colleague said over here, there'll be people who will be working and fixing this AI when problems come. If we have a machine problem, who's going to fix it? A human is going to fix it. Okay? There's also errors in AI. Not everything is perfect. Everything tweaks in a minute. Something could happen and something could malfunction. You need to fix it again. Okay? As my colleague quoted, progress is impossible without change. We must brace for it. It's human nature that people feel threatened with artificial intelligence, as they might feel that it could take their jobs and affect them and their family overall. But have you ever thought how artificial intelligence has helped us? In order for us humans to function properly, we need at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep a day. Artificial intelligence don't. Artificial intelligence can work continuously, round the clock, making the right decision with less margin for errors. This can help reduce injuries and fatalities. The National Agricultural Workers Survey quoted that the rate of 21.4 deaths every 100,000 persons in this field, with transportation incidents being the leading cause of death. Speaking of transportation, in 2016, the Saudi Journal quoted that 12% of daily fatalities are car accidents. That's about 25 traffic deaths per day. Just think about how self-driving cars can reduce numbers with AI. Let's embrace change, propel ourselves with our latest revolutionary technology towards Vision 2030 and beyond. Thank you.
Group A. Let's just see, is Imam University here? Is Riyadh ELM here? You're the only one? They're all outside? Okay. Judges, have you made a decision on the winner of Group A?
The standard decision is both teams are winners just for participating. All the teams attending this debate are considered as winners. But performance-wise, to keep the teams competing and going to the next stage, Riyadh ELM will be the winner for this round.
Riyadh ELM! Thank you, everyone. You're welcome to stay. As a teacher, I can't possibly argue with that logic. So they want to go back to school and catch their classes. Thank you. You guys aren't here to cheer. They're all out. Okay, and with that, we are ready to go with round B. On the pro side, we have Arab Open University. On the con side, we have Prince Sultan University. I would now like to ask Arab Open University to introduce themselves in the order that they will speak.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Wayed Ubaid. I'll be the first speaker representing AOU.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Hashim Tamimi, Arab Open University. I'll be the second speaker.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Abdulaziz Al Hussein. I'll be the third speaker for the Arab Open University.
Judges, did you get that first name, please?
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Asjad Ansari. I'm the first speaker for...
Asjad, hold on. Oh, now we're ready for PSU. Okay, PSU, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Asjad Ansari. I'm the first speaker representing Prince Sultan University.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mohammed Al-Modu. It's an honor to be representing the Prince Sultan University as the second speaker.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Abdurrahman Babakar, the third speaker of Prince Sultan University.
Oh, the first one is B team. That's okay. Cross them out. Yeah. It's the second. The second one. Yes.
Mohammed Al-Modu.
now I'd like to have the judges prepared. Pro team, Arab Open University, are you ready to go? Yes. Con team, Prince Sultan University, are you ready to go? Ready to go. Timer, are you ready to go? And with that, we'll have the first speaker from Arab Open University.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mu'ayid Ubaid. I was born here in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh City specifically. I have grown here. I've witnessed the growth, civil growth in Riyadh City. And I must say that 2030 vision is a great and a huge step for Riyadh City and Kingdom Saudi Arabia in general. When I say a huge step, I'm talking about a civil growth, a huge civil growth that both touches the national level and most importantly, the individual level. It's a huge step, and when it is touching the individual level, it must be done in the most perfect way possible. And when I'm talking about the most perfect way, I'm going to use the term efficiency. Now, efficiency is a currency that never dies. You can never be, you know the phrase, you can never be too careful. Well, it is a must to use the phrase, you can never be too efficient. As I said, efficiency is an undying currency. And with that, I say that the most important thing about efficiency is to stop the waste in terms of time, in terms of effort and money. Now, I'd say let's take a small look to Riyadh City, for example. More specifically about the transportation movement, the traffic flows. Let's take a look, for example, at the gasoline consumption. We have all been through Riyadh City. We have cruised around Riyadh City, sometimes aimlessly maybe. We've been stuck in like these heinous traffics. For example, King Fahd Road, for example, the Northern Ring Road, they have this major traffic that happens almost 3 times a day. You can imagine thousands of cars getting stuck, consuming gasoline, releasing CO2 into the air. You can imagine how much CO2 is being released every single day, how much money is for purchasing all that much of gasoline. Think about the emergency cars. Emergency cars also get stuck in these traffics. Also, whenever they want to reach an emergency place, they have to basically push the 3 lanes altogether into 2 lanes, and that would be so much painful, wasting so much time for everyone stuck in this road, wasting so much money because of that gasoline, and releasing so much CO2 into the air. Gasoline is a mortal energy resource. Eventually we will run out of gasoline, and hence I must ask the question, how is that for efficiency? If we're going to stay the way we are, that is not efficient. We're not going to do anything, we're not going to move anywhere. So the best, when I use the term efficiency, the best solution we can think of is public transportation. Public transportation's main job is to reduce all the waste that I've mentioned earlier. Hence, we as AOU agree on the idea of placing a heavy tax on both gasoline prices and the automobiles. It's a huge step if we were going to think about evolution. It is the best solution we can think of. And And this is why we need to work all together as a beehive to make the Vision 2030 happen. Thank you.
Honorable judges, fellow team members, worthy opponents, good morning. I would like to recall some of the key points that the speaker has mentioned. First of all, the proposition speaker has mentioned the importance of efficiency and how efficiency means public transportation. He also stated that how we get stuck in cities of Riyadh traffic, especially the King Fahd Road and the Northern Greek Road. However, the proposition speaker has failed to support his ideas by providing examples and statistics to support his ideas as to why implementing tax is beneficial. Moreover, he failed to define public transportation, so our team would like to define what public transportation is. Public transportation is basically a method of transport that people use to go from one place to another, and it's open to the entire public. Moreover, the proposition speaker also mentioned that by using efficiency, by using public transportation system, this will contribute to Vision 2030. Let me remind you the objectives of Vision 2030, my friends. The main objectives are a vibrant society, a thriving economy, an ambitious nation. In our opinion, we strongly disagree the idea of implementing heavy tax on gasolines and automobile purchases, with all the resulting money going to support public transportation. To support our team's argument, I'll be talking about how a gasoline or automobile tax would harm the Saudi economy and how Saudi Arabia is not ready to implicate such a kind of tax yet. While our second speaker will mention about how imposing such a kind of tax is really unnecessary, and he would also share the alternative solutions to promote public transportation rather than imposing heavy tax. Now moving on to my first point, it harms the economy. Every cent that the consumer spends on gas is not the cent spent on clothes, dining, etc. When the Americans wanted to institute a similar kind of tax, the Tax Reform for America estimated that 1% increase in gas price would take $1 billion out of American pockets. I repeat, 1% increase in gas price would result in $1 billion taken from the American pockets. That $1 billion would have been used to be spent on the economy. Furthermore, implementing tax on gas prices would result in increasing the prices of goods and services. This would directly hurt the middle class and working class of the Saudi economy. These people are what make the economy, and increasing such prices would impose financial pressure on them. And moving on to the second point, which is Saudi Arabia is not a suitable place to enact such a kind of tax. According to World Population Review, nearly 90% of Saudi citizens have some form of access to the public transportation system. If we were to implement such kind of tax, wherein the 30% of Saudi citizens are willing to use the public transportation system, what about the remaining 70% of Saudis? Do you expect them to just walk to work? You cannot place a heavy tax to influence people to have access to the system when they don't even have that access to the system in the first place. To conclude our argument, we are against the idea of implementing a heavy tax on gasoline and automobile purchases, with all the resulting money going to promote public transportation, because it harms the Saudi economy, and Saudi Arabia is not a suitable place to enact a gasoline or automobile tax. Contest chair.
Thank you for coming back on with that argument. I just need to touch base on a few things that you mentioned. We're talking about the Saudi economy, comparing it with the American economy. At this point, I don't think it's possible. We're actually moving in a very fast pace than even the American economy. When we mentioned the Vision 2030, yeah, you did mention a few things in the vision. However, part of that is actually having different source of income for the country. Our only source of income, until like maybe a couple of years ago, was only oil, from oil. We hit almost rock bottom when even the government stopped some allowances on some employees because of we were struggling in the economy. The budget was really bad at that time, and that was only like a few years back. There was a big and a huge reform to actually have different sources of income, and one of them, believe it or not, will be actually taxes. We heard it a couple of times that nothing will happen, but it's happening. We did actually mention the part where we're looking at public transportation in a way that the foundation is being built today. Part of it will be actually coming from that taxation on gasoline. That's going to be only a small part of that, by the way. The big part of actually building that foundation is actually getting the expertise from even around the world. Saudi right now are building so many projects with at least a 10 to 20% out of that being something to be built inside the kingdom. So public transportation is a huge thing to actually to have in Saudi. Just 3 days ago, one of the major streets, it was not a major street only 3 days ago in Riyadh, it was Imam Mohammed bin Saud bin Migran Street, which the name got changed to Prince Mohammed bin Salman 3 days ago. And there's a huge project that's going to happen in that area where it's actually going towards the environment. And it's an environmental thing as well. Saying that, the point where you mentioned 30% can actually afford, let's say, will afford cars, for example, or public transportation, what will the 70% do? Are they going to walk or not? Well, there's also the disabled. What are they doing today? There are actually alternatives. There are solutions for that as well. And by the way, when you say walk, yeah, I mean, that's going also the healthier side. And that's another argument. I don't want to go through it now. However, we are actually with implementing that heavy tax on gasoline. Again, that's another source of income for the country. And at the same time, that's going to build that foundation for the public transportation. Today, we're seeing the metro lines everywhere in Riyadh. And it's almost there. It's going to open very soon. I'm waiting, actually, personally, for that to open because I'm going to keep my car at home and I'm actually going to walk that 5 minutes to that metro station and take the metro to work. So basically, we're with that change. Yes, the Vision 2030, as you mentioned, had a big scale. And believe it or not, this is a small one, a very small implementation that the government wants to actually have in place to see the wider picture. And keep in mind, we were never born to actually just walk. We had to crawl first until we actually learned how to walk. And it was small steps until we could actually jog and run after that.
The first speaker of the proposition team has presented one key point of argument to consolidate their proposition, which is efficiency. Honorable judges, distinguished guests, and worthy opponents, allow me to address a key issue by asking a critical question. Is imposing heavy taxation on gasoline the most efficient solution to further promote public transportation? In a rapidly advancing world, we no longer possess the luxury to experiment with possibly dysfunctional policies. And in alignment with Vision 2030, the days of dysfunctionalism are long gone. Today, we have no other option but to operate with absolute efficiency to achieve our objectives. Henceforth, we actually agree with the proposition team that yes, efficiency should be promoted. Yet our question remains, is imposing a heavy taxation on gasoline the most efficient? Now we have 2 points of argument to establish our premise. First, that this type of policy has unnecessary implications which impact crucial sectors and industries. For example, imagine how food prices would be affected by such a policy. As we all know, our food doesn't just magically fall from the sky. It goes through a long chain from farmers to suppliers to warehousers to distributors until it gets to retailers. And do you know what all these corporations depend on? They depend on gasoline. Therefore, food prices are bound to skyrocket because of this policy. And therefore, we refute your proposition that this policy is supposed to be efficient. It is not. It will impact crucial industries. And keep in mind that the food industry will not be the only industry affected by this policy. Literally, from basic utilities to public services, and to literally every sector you can imagine that depends on gasoline will be affected. Our second point of argument is that much more efficient solutions exist that can achieve the very same objective while at the same time not causing unnecessary implications. For example, as the first speaker of the proposition team has also presented that such a tax would reduce traffic in high traffic areas, it would lower the gasoline consumption, and it would direct people towards public transportation. Now, to establish our premise clearly, we are not against public transportation. In fact, we are all for it. However, we do not agree that heavy taxation on gasoline is the most efficient solution. And other efficient solutions that can be alternatives to such a policy are, for example, a congestion tax, or a traffic toll, or a road fee on high traffic areas like King Abdullah Road or King Fahd Street. We can impose a heavy tax on these areas instead of affecting entire sectors and industries, thereupon affecting our everyday lives. Finally, to affirm our position, we are not against public transportation. We do believe that efficiency should be promoted, as well as much more efficient solutions exist. Therefore, honorable judges, one question remains. Why on earth would you adopt such a dysfunctional policy while other much more efficient solutions that can achieve the very same objective while at the same time minimize the unnecessary implications? Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm Abdulaziz Hussain and I'm here representing Air Open University. We have heard the arguments of the opposing team, and I need to say that in terms of efficiency, I guess we can all agree, okay? But there are a few points where you may have contradicted yourself, such as companies that do rely on public transportation, okay? First of all, if more people implement public transportation, there's going to be less cars on the road, which means less gas consumption, which is less of a liability and cost towards those people who use transportation for their own companies. So basically, they are saving money. And it will create maybe around 15,000 jobs. So those people who find themselves maybe in a bit of a financial problem will be able to find alternate solutions and different sources of income. Now, when you're talking about congestion taxes and toll booths as an alternate to public transportation, what you're doing is you're creating a bigger problem, because when you have a toll, an official toll, it creates more traffic congestion, because everybody needs to stop, dig through their wallets, and pay the money. This is not efficiency. Now, the heavy tax is a small part of the whole vision. I would like to talk about dreams. Dreams are a vision, okay? And I have some statistics for the metro only. It first of all will use renewable energy. According to the Saudi Gazette, there are 6 million accidents a year. 85% of those are on the highways. The same highways that emergency vehicles and people who go across the country from farms to sell their food and wholesale and retail, they all use these. So the more and more people that use these methods of public transportation can actually reduce the future costs of their own goods that they use to buy, and they save money at the same time. When the metro first starts, it's projected that it will save $398 million a year. And it will have 338 trains. In 2017, there was 12 million cars on the road in Saudi Arabia, which was spending 811,000 barrels of oil a day. It's projected, if everything stays the same, by 2030, if it's still the same, we'll have 26 million cars on the road, if it keeps going the way it's going, which is 1.8 million barrels of oil being spent a day. And according to the Noema World Atlas, the oil price is going to be $70 a barrel in 2030, which is very low, by the way. And if they were spending $1.8 million of oil, 1.8 million barrels of oil a day, that's $126 million a day that we're spending on oil. So why don't we just use this $126 million to solve the other problems that the heavy tax may create? These statistics, by the way, these statistics, by the way, are before the heavy tax. So imagine how efficient it's going to be after the heavy tax. I'd like to make one quote from Mohammed bin Salman, our Crown Prince, about the 2030 vision, and say that we can only work with dreamers. Okay? This is the dream of the 2030 vision. Okay, thank you.
Fellow team members, honorable judges, dear opponents, and lovely audience, a warm greetings to all of you. There stood my honorable opponents claiming that taxes would further promote public transportation. Let me go into why they're wrong. The second speaker said it's okay for the citizens who don't have access to these public transportation systems to walk. It's going to be a 5-minute walk to the nearest closest station. Well, let me tell you this. Not everyone has a 5-minute walk nearby to their closest station. They're going to have to walk miles and miles. And we're entering the summer soon. It's going to reach degrees up to 50 degrees Celsius. Well, it is healthy indeed to walk. It's not healthy in these kind of climates. Furthermore, the second speaker delved into how public transportation systems in these rural areas will be built from the taxes that are collected. It takes time to build these public transportation systems. The metro system in Riyadh started in 2014, January 31st, and it still has not ended. That was nearly 5 years ago. Do we tell the people who live in these rural areas to wait and withstand this new price and cost of automobiles and gases while we build them? It will take time for us to collect the tax. It will take even more time to build these public transportation systems. The third speaker kind of contradicted himself. The costs of transportation are going to actually increase. Companies do not take the public transportation systems to transport their goods and services. The water that you're drinking from right now, it went through trucks, it went through production. They won't go through the metro, they won't go through the buses system of the public transportation. And when you're increasing the prices of gas by implementing a heavy tax on them, these prices are going to increase. And when these prices increase, the companies will have no other way to combat this staggering price of transportation than to increase their own prices of goods and services. And who's going to be affected by that? The middle and working class of our nation, and they make up most of our nation. The working class and middle class shouldn't be damaged by taxes. It's their problem, not against them. In essence, let me build up what my team believes. We believe that implementing a heavy tax on gas or automobiles will actually damage the economy by increasing the prices of goods and services. And such as what our second speaker suggested, gases, there exists multiple solutions that don't carry these negative implications. While the third speaker of the proposition team argued that a congestion tax is not useful. Actually, in 2000, when the City of London was facing an issue with congestion and traffic, Mayor Ron Livingston imposed a congestion tax. And according to City Metric, that congestion tax has been heavily successful. It decreased traffic by up to nearly 30% and congestion by 15%. So it does work and it is useful. Actually, Mayor Sadiq Khan stated recently that this congestion tax has promoted people to take these public transportation systems. On the other hand, I doubt implementing a heavy tax on gases and automobiles would do the same. Both sides have spoken about Vision 2030, but let me elaborate a bit more. The goals are, the first is to create a vibrant society, not one that has its movement hindered. A thriving economy, not one that has the price of its goods increased. And an ambitious nation, not one that has to worry about the heavy taxes. In conclusion, we stand against imposing a heavy tax on gases and automobiles because they damage the economy, and there are many solutions that are way better than implementing a heavy tax to promote the same public systems. After all, it is the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdul Aziz, who once stated, "My first objective for our country is to be a pioneering and successful global model of excellence on all fronts." The notion of implementing a heavy tax on gas and automobiles does not achieve that objective. Thank you.
And at this point, we're going to allow the judges to pose questions to both sides.
Okay, thank you to both teams. I wanted to ask both teams if you could define what your understanding is of a heavy tax. What do you mean by a heavy tax? How much are we talking about? Do you have any benchmarks or examples from other countries? Start with the pro team.
Let's give you all the questions so we prepare them together and then you will answer them at once, okay? So my question is, you mentioned that how to deal with the money going to the transportations. Is it possible to define or to put more information to the judges and to both teams? The way that the money going to the transport, how it looks like. What are the kinds of money will go to the transportations? Okay, let me give it to you a different way. We're collecting taxes from putting the taxes on the gasoline to use them on the transportation. I want to know if you have the information or to convince us. This money will be collected and will be diverted to the transportation. What kind of transportation? How will we use this money to the transportation? Okay? Thank you.
Okay, my question is, public transportation is important. What do you think, means how much is it going to help the country and whether the people will be ready or not for that? So this is my question, whether the public, especially the Saudi people, will use public transportation or maybe what might be the percentage if you have any data or something, any survey was done before that?
I'll try and phrase it a little bit simpler. The taxation, the collecting of taxation is an essential part of any functioning government. The problem is the guarantee of that tax going to the right departments and the money going on the right things. Where is your guarantees that that will happen? If you argue for a tax, how are you going to guarantee it goes to that exact department
for, in this case, transportation. It's not going to get lost in other departments. Governments like to tax for specific reasons, but as in England, we know the taxation on car tax does not go on roads. It disappears somewhere else for whatever reason. So where is your guarantees that this tax will be directed in the right direction?
Answering the first question about if we have any percentages or samples for taxes, I can give an example of a nearby market, which is the UAE. They started implementing actually a heavy tax on gasoline, and they actually took that tax in part of one of the projects to actually build that public transportation. They had it at 5% at the beginning. They increased the prices of gas itself. Again, because of the prices of the oil barrel it was actually descending. So they had to actually do something and get a profit out of that gasoline. This is one part, and actually they used it into building the metro, for example, in Dubai, and other projects actually continued after that. And that was a guarantee actually from the UAE government to actually have that put in public transportation. The second question was in regards how to actually guarantee the heavy taxes being actually going to the public transportation. Exactly. Well, again, as I mentioned also earlier, it's a part of it, so it's not the whole thing. But implementing that will actually have the change going towards public transportation. Today, everyone is driving. How can we change that? And change is big. And then we all remember Obama's campaign when he said change. That was his logo, change. And this is what we actually need to have, change. We need to adapt to that. It's very hard to actually change. If you have a routine, a lot of people love their normal routine, but when you implement a new idea, it takes time until it actually sinks in. So again, going back to that point, how will we actually ensure that that will happen? First of all, by actually having that change there. This is one. So tax is part of that. How are we going to guarantee that that's going to happen actually, and it's going to go towards public transportation? This is part of the 2030 vision. It's part of the project, and we're seeing a lot of projects being announced, almost every day. If not every week, we're hearing a new project, and it's by billions. And again, this is due to the multiple sources of incomes right now. One of them is actually tax. I'll give you a few statistic numbers. Last year, VAT was implemented, for example. That was the first real, let me say, tax on everyone. And it's a 5% on everyone, on services and all of that. Some services did not have VAT on it, like, for example, healthcare and all of that. However, other type of services do have VAT. And the income that the General Authority of Zakat recorded for 2018 from VAT itself only was around 3.5 billion. And this was only for the first year of implementing that. and that is actually being increased on other products as well. So it's not only on one or multiple. Other products are being actually introduced to have that on it as well. There was also a question in regards, it was for guaranteeing. Do we actually guarantee this going into public transportation? I believe it's the same answer I just gave, that this is part of the projects that the government actually have in plans that the government have for the coming years. And the Vision 2030 doesn't actually start or end at 2030. It started almost 2 years ago. And the first, let me say, big results that we're going to see from it is going to happen in 2020, which is next year. Is this guaranteed to go actually into public transportation? I can tell you a part of it will go into public transportation because the vision is big. The plans are really huge. So there are multiple, let me say, things that the government are looking at to actually benefit out of that small portion of that tax. Yes, we're saying it's heavy tax, however, it's a small thing if you look at the big picture again.
Thank you for your question, Honorable Judge. It was, what's your definition of a heavy tax, right? So our understanding of a heavy tax in the context of this topic, it would be a tax that would at least double or quadruple the prices of gasoline, basically. Thus, we do not believe that such a tax is efficient in achieving its objective of promoting public transportation. And we actually like the question because none of the teams actually defined what a heavy tax is. What do we mean by a tax? So that's actually a good question. The second question, actually, it was kind of three questions because the Honorable Judge, he asked the question whether how will the revenue from such a tax be directed, right? I believe that both judges basically asked kind of similar questions. So we're just gonna crunch them into one question, which is how will taxes be guaranteed in directing or at least achieving its objective? First of all, in Saudi Arabia, we still do not have a designated tax agency, like the IRS in the US, for example. This concept of taxation is still quite new in Saudi Arabia, as well as we actually do believe that such a heavy taxation policy won't guarantee that it would achieve its objective efficiently in promoting public transportation. Actually, it would, as they said, reduce consumption of oil, and it would increase the revenue for the government and diversify income for the government, which is true. However, we still cannot guarantee how that revenue will be directed efficiently. So that's actually a good point. As for the third question was, how would public transportation help the country, right? So our first speaker would answer that question.
Thank you very much. So, coming back to the question, how will public transportation help the country? And will public transportation be beneficial for the Saudi citizens? The answer to the above questions is yes. Public transportation will help the Saudis in many ways. Not only does it increase safety, but it also saves a great big deal of money. According to the report from Saudi Gazette, 1 accident happens every minute, which results in 20 deaths per day. So we believe by promoting public transportation, we guarantee that the number of accidents will definitely be reduced. And as for the cost, according to the Makkah Post, about 51 billion Saudi riyals have been spent on constructing roads. That 51 billion riyals could have been used on investing for the public transportation. So to sum up my answers, public transportation will help the country in terms of safety and cost, and Saudis will benefit a lot with public transportation. Thank you.
All right, I believe that concludes the first round of the Group B debates. And pending the judge's approval with this, something I should have announced, we are not planning to say of the 2 debates which one. We're only planning to say of the 4 Group B teams, which team got the highest score. So I hope that doesn't leave any dissatisfaction with people who want to know whether or not they beat their opponent or not. We are now going to, unless there are any questions, we are now going to break for lunch. And after lunch, we will have the second debate of Group B, at which point we'll announce who is the winner of Group B, and at which point we will then do the final round of debates. So, everyone, thank you very much, and great lunch. You know where the lunchroom is. This gentleman right over here. And now we're about to announce the winner of Block B. Judges, do we have an announcement? Do we have a winner?
We have 4 winners, plus the previous winners. All participants, would like to thank you for participating. For me, it's a great pleasure to see all of you debating, trying to do your best. Believe it or not, it was not easy. Scores are really so close. As a fact that we need to have a winner, so we decided to have one winner, unfortunately, but that does not mean that the other teams are not winning. You won the participation, you won the experience of being here on this stage, in this event, taking the others' experience, sharing your experience with the others. But I need to say congratulations to everyone. Yet, before announcing the university, we still have the competition is still open for the team member winner. So the university that we will announce is winning the Group B.
Group B.
They will compete with Group A, but still we have in our list the team winner. It could be any of the other groups. So
that's the individual speaker.
The individual speaker. The winner of Group B is Prince Sultan University.
The Saudi University Men's Debate Contest. The topic is, this House believes that the GCC member states should have one unified currency. To repeat, props will not be allowed to be used. I don't think we need to go over the timing rules again. Does everybody understand the timing? Do either of the teams or the judges have any questions? Well, with that, with the head judge's permission, I would like to begin the contest. Yep. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to say something. I'm sorry. Yes, we are going to once again have each team member stand up and say their names so that the judges can get their names on the form. Let us start with Prince Sultan University. It's more for the judges in the audience, so as long as they can hear you. Just go ahead. Go ahead.
The first speaker of Prince Sultan University, Abdurrahman Babakar.
Good afternoon, I'm Ansari, the second speaker, representing
Asjad Ansari.
Mohammed Al-Mojo, Prince Sultan University, third pro speaker.
Good afternoon, Faisal Talik from Riyadh ELM University.
Good afternoon, Mahmoud Abid, second speaker for Riyadh ELM University.
Good afternoon, Tamar bin Nas, third speaker for Riyadh ELM University.
Is this microphone working? that one working?
Hello?
Yeah, that one's working. This one's okay. And with that, Mr. Timer, are you ready?
I'm ready, yes.
Okay, pro side, first speaker, please begin.
In 2001, the GCC Supreme Council set the following goals: having a customs union, a common market, and a shared currency. 2 have been achieved, and the 3rd has yet to come. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable judges, fellow teammates, and my honorable opponents, good evening. This House believes that all member states of the GCC should have one unified currency. What do we mean when we say that? We mean that all nation states of the Gulf Cooperation Council, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Emirates, and Oman should have one currency between them. Should have one unit of exchange between them, with delegations from all countries setting financial policies between them. Why do we believe so? We believe so because of the following reason. According to the optimum currency area, the Gulf is a textbook perfect example of an area that is ready to embrace a unified currency. Now, what is the OCA, or the optimum currency area, mean? Well, the OCA is a theory that describes whether countries of a certain geographical area should merge their nations, should merge their currencies together under certain characteristics. Now, what are these characteristics, you might ask? The first one is the labor mobility across the region. Now, this involves whether citizens of these nations can travel to each other freely and work without any social and cultural barriers. Now, to begin with, all citizens of the GCC states can travel freely to the other without the need of a visa. They can just do it. In fact, most international airports in the GCC nations have a special queue explicitly meant for GCC nations. And if you want to speak social and cultural barriers, you cannot find a geographical area which is with a stronger social link than the Gulf Cooperation Council of Nations. Arabic is the main language among all nations, and Islam is the main religion, and all of them follow the Khaliji culture. The second characteristic of the OCA is capital mobility, and that means whether goods and services can travel between each nation freely without any tariffs. And again, the Gulf has no tariffs between them. As of January 2015, a single market union was fully developed between all nations. The third is a risk-sharing system that redistributes wealth to poorer nations in terms of prices. Now, economists usually say that this is the hardest one to achieve. And I would like to argue that the GCC is ready for that risk-sharing system. The belief that other GCC citizens are brothers is embedded into the mind of every GCC citizen. The notion that religion advocates to protect your fellow brother, the notion that culture also advocates for the protection of your brother, helps satisfy that region. When you look at the Greece problem with the euro, many German citizens find it hard that they do not want to send their wealth to Greece. They're so different, they're not the same. But if you look at the Gulf nations, you can hardly find any difference between them. They're basically two sides of the same coin. Now, the fourth and last check is having similar business cycles. According to Professor Shakir Alawi, this one goes without saying. Why, you might ask? Well, all GCC nations have the same source of revenue: oil, crude oil, petroleum. All of them have that as their primary source of income. In fact, according to Credential, a Belgian export credit agency, nearly all members of the GCC have had nearly symmetric business cycles ever since the discovery of oil. And all nations are in fact trying to diversify their economy, and they must actually turn to unify their efforts together. According to Anas Al-Saleh, Kuwait's finance minister, a common market and common central bank would position the GCC as one entity that would have great influence on the international financial system. Thank you.
Good afternoon, esteemed judges, guests, my honorable opponents. Now, my opponent mentioned many points that stand to benefit the Gulf socially and politically, but he failed to mention the main advantage of a monetary union, which is the economic advantage. Now, in 1999, the European Union was established. The GCC countries are currently trying to devise a way to implement their own version of a shared monetary union. Now, in economics, optimum currency region is a region in which it would maximize economic efficiency to have that region under one single currency. An obvious example is the European Union. Individual countries in Europe do not constitute optimum currency region. However, as a whole, they do. But time and time again, it has proved to be futile. The European Union is one of the mostly affected economically in the world. Can the GCC countries fulfill the criteria and realize optimal economic efficiency as a region? Now, there already exists strong interrelationship and economic ties between the GCC countries. In 1981, the GCC was established. In 1983, free trade was established. Now, the logical next step in the sequence is to implement the monetary union. However, this does not come without barriers and obstacles that are difficult to overcome. One of the main factors to a successful monetary union is the amount of intra-trade that occurs within the region. And intra-trade in the GCC has been low. The main reason being that the economies of the GCC countries depend on one single main resource, which is oil. And oil is an extremely unstable commodity. Now, one of the main factors that deems a region more suitable for monetary union is the diversity of its resources and exports. But since diversification is a direct benefit of monetary union, we should reconsider if it is to our benefit. Since 1991, oil and gas income constituted an average 35% of the GDP, 77% of total exports, and 74% of government revenues. So since one of the main arguments of monetary union is diversification, we would not stand to benefit much. Another important aspect is symmetry and congruence between the nations, so as to avoid something called asymmetric shock. A recent example would be the economic collapse of Greece that occurred in 2009, in which all the currencies and economies of the EU suffered because of it. Now, in such a union, not every member is as strong as the others economically or structurally. The level of cooperation needed in such a union has to be very high to deal with, a host to deal with. Factors such as inflation, interest rates, and asymmetric shock. And as it stands right now, there's not much cooperation. As an example, between Saudi Arabia and Qatar. In such a union, Saudi Arabia would become much more dominant than Germany is within the Eurozone. Now, to conclude, there are many factors to consider before creating a unified, efficient monetary union, such as political stability, common exchange rates, and development of efficient policies.
Kuwait's finance minister, Sultan, once said, GCC monetary union project should be project should be implemented without delay. Honorable judges, fellow team members, worthy opponents, good afternoon. I would like to refute some of the key points that the first opposition speaker has mentioned. He mentioned that the reason why EU is not going well because of the different diversity cultures and also because the unified currency is not performing well. Let me remind you this, my friends. The actual reason why EU is having issues with the unified currency is because countries are of different diversity. They have
Sultan University. He knows the story. Saudi Electronic University.